But there's a not so plausible form of this, which is something that you'll hear in slogan form on the internet. And that is, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Hand in the air if you've heard somebody say that or seen somebody write that. Yep. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. That sounds clever. What does it mean? Seriously. Well, what do you mean by extraordinary evidence? I think this argument, or this meme, this slogan, which goes back to Carl Sagan, should be named in his honor. And so I present to you the Argumentum Sagani from the original presenter for Cosmos. Here's how the Argumentum Sagani goes, as best I've been able to reconstruct it after reading way too many people arguing on the internet. It goes like this. Premise 1, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Premise number 2, claim that a miracle has occurred is extraordinary. Therefore, first conclusion, any evidence supporting it ought to be extraordinary as well. Premise 4, I'm not sure what I mean by extraordinary. Premise 5, but whatever you come up with, it's not going to work. Therefore, 6, no one is justified in believing any miracle claim. I have a technical talk that I can do where I actually go further in unpacking the layers of this kind of thing. But honestly, I think this is pretty much all you need to know about the Argumentum Sagani. Let's do a scientific test case, though. According to one proposed theory in nuclear physics, spontaneous proton decay happens. But it's just really, really rare. It's so rare that no instances of it have ever been observed. That's pretty rare. That looks almost like it just doesn't ever happen, right? Because it never has. So, what do scientists interested in this theory do? They set up sensitive detectors in underground water tanks, and they leave them there for decades in an attempt to see whether it actually takes place. Well, that would be an extraordinary claim. The fact that 100% of the protons so far observed have not decayed does not mean that it's impossible for us to accept evidence of such decay. We even try to set up and look for it. Look, what we're asking for here is not some kind of special religious exemption clause from reasoning. We're just asking that there be no double standards. If we're allowed to look for evidence of unprecedented things in physical science, why shouldn't we be allowed to look for evidence of unprecedented things in a religious context? You say, wait, but Hume covered that. He already got that. He told you it's because it's religious and people make false miracle claims in religious contexts way more often than in any other. I agree. They do. And that's a reason to be cautious. Who wants to be a sucker? Does anybody want to be taken in? No. But if there really were a God who really did want to communicate something to mankind and to seal that in a way we could not mistake as coming from just a clever philosopher or an inspired poet, then isn't that exactly where you would expect a miracle to take place? So, if there isn't a God, you would expect that there would be miracle claims in religious context. But if there is one, that would be the very place where he'd be most likely to work it. So that one pulls both directions. It's not a slam dunk. Let me quote somebody from 1729, writing while Hume is still a teenager, about the question of evidence, how much evidence we should look for. I do allow, says Thomas Sherlock, that this case, the case of reported miracles, and others of like nature, require more evidence to give them credit than ordinary cases do. You may therefore require more evidence in these than in other cases, but it is absurd to say that such cases admit no evidence when the things in question are quite manifestly objects of sense. Do you think that you are competent with your functioning senses to tell the difference between a dead man and a living one? No, let me rephrase that. How many of you had a best friend in high school? Somebody you hung out with a fair amount, okay? You remember that person? Think of some time when you spent maybe the better part of a day with that person. Can you think of that? Got something in mind? Now, if I put you on the witness stand and I said, I'm going to ask you 2 questions, I need you to answer honestly, and if you're not sure, then you need to just say, I'm sorry, I'm not sure. First question, are you really sure that was your friend and not somebody who just looked kind of like your friend? Are you sure? People make mistakes about identifying people sometimes, you know. I'm not shaking anybody, am I? This isn't working. Okay, second thing, can you swear before the court, under oath, that during that time your friend was alive and not dead? Okay, you're competent to tell the difference between a dead person and a living one when it's your own close friend. You are competent to give the kind of testimony that we have to the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It's not rocket science. It doesn't require a biology degree. This is it.